Yadu is there. He's from the media.
Okay, I'm also with the media.
He's with the influential figure. So he can,
because you all know him. I also welcome all the distinguished academicians, thought leaders, and ladies and gentlemen. I think this is the first time strategic experts from the world to superpower are having an academic dialogue with the academicians of the fast emerging economies of the East. For almost a century, US had been leading the world as an economic and military superpower. The war horses of Europe had long been relegated to the background. China and India were at the bottom of the pyramid for almost 500 years. China because of internal strife and India because of foreign domination. But years of subjugation and strife could not kill the spirit of these countries, whose geniuses helped Europe rise to become great nations in later years. I would say the East and the West. Will India and China continue to grow economically and militarily at the current pace? Will they be an economic opportunity or threat to the US in the projected economic situation in terms of jobs, access to energy, and innovations? Will the US be able to strategically partner with India or China or both for a new world order? And how politically stable will India and China be a few decades from now are matters that will be discussed at this conference by people of great eminence and erudition. The Fairbanks Center of Harvard University, Georgia Tech University, Mercer University out of USA, Hebrew University of Jerusalem, and the Institute of International Studies and Center for China in the World Economy of Tsinghua University in Beijing should be congratulated for taking a bold decision to meet in Kochi with their Indian counterparts led by Dr. Subramanian Swamy for a conference of this dimension and significance. I am extremely happy to welcome such great dignitaries from China, USA, and Israel and India to Kochi and to the ACMS for the conference. I also have great pleasure to welcome our Honorable Minister of Kerala, who could somehow find time to spare for us so as to be here as our guest of honor. I heartily welcome our thought leaders and other distinguished guests who are here on our invitation for this function and for the conference. Now, I would request Dr. Swamy to say a few words about the conference and also about the activities which we have for the next 2 days.
First of all, I won't take up much time because the we'll put this off. Because there's dinner to be served, and of course, most important, we've got a minister in a captive position just now. He's got party elections. He's a minister of education. He's an old friend of mine. We've been in Parliament together for many, many years. And despite our ideological fundamental differences, we have been very great friends. I'm very, very grateful to him for having accepted to come. Also would like to say that when I first broached this idea to two people, Roderick McParker and to Yadun Wang, about affiliating Fairbanks Center and Tsinghua University respectively. They were both very forthcoming and my daughter trying to say that she's on her way to stop talking to this. From Professor Perkins and the Goldmans, who have always been very supportive of me. I may tell you a secret that I've survived so long in Indian politics thanks to the occasional sanctuary that the gentleman provided for me at Harvard. Never before such a galaxy of scholars have come together on this topic, and this topic is clearly of great importance. I'm also happy that this is going to be a purely academic conference because almost all sections of opinion have expressed great interest in this conference. The Prime Minister wrote me a letter saying he would have himself come to participate, but the Prime Minister of Britain suddenly turned up. So he can't leave town, and then after that is the French President. So he is sending his advisor, who will be coming tomorrow, and will be chairing a session with Dr. Sanjay Baru, himself an economist, to the External Affairs Minister, who not only sent his good wishes, but he also took the extraordinary step of telling all our embassies that I'm not a bad man, and that this conference had political clearance so that they should not block visas for those who apply and should be given. So these are unprecedented steps in at least in my dealing with public issues in this country and academic issues in this country. The leader of the opposition, Mr. Jaswant Singh, is also in town, but he couldn't make it to this function, but he'll be there tomorrow to chair a session. So it would not have been possible without generous help from a variety of people. First of all, I have to thank the devotees of the person who is regarded as a divine personage, the Shankaracharya of Kanchi, who's no more, his name was Chandrasekhar Saraswati. His devotees in the United States put together a substantial amount for the conference, so I have to thank them for it. I have to thank the former ambassador of China here. He was able to ensure that sources in this country who do trade provide sufficient funds so that the Chinese delegation from Tsinghua could come with comfort to this country, and he provided a great deal of inspiration. I'm sorry he could not come because the Chinese government cruelly called him back, and so otherwise we would have had him, like to have had him here and honor him. There are a variety of business organizations who came spontaneously forward. They don't give me money that easily for politics, but for this conference they were very much forthcoming. The Hindu newspaper, whose chief editor will be here. His plane is delayed, so he's on his way. His plane is landed, so he'll be on his way here. He'll meet us. Mr. N. Ram, one of the fiercely independent, even though he has a definite political view about things, but he's fiercely independent. He has never submitted or bowed before any government, and therefore his newspaper collectively made a substantial donation. So we have listed in the logo, their logos in the advertisement for this function. I therefore would like to thank all these people, and also Mr. Muhammad Ali, who owns this hotel, who was, this is a peak period, and it's very, very difficult to get rooms in blocks in hotels. But Mr. Muhammad Ali, who lives in Muscat, on a telephone call from me, was very forthcoming and made it possible. And in this picturesque hotel, he gave me sufficient encouragement to get all this done. So I hope, in view of this widespread interest, this conference will be an annual affair, and maybe next time Tsinghua will host it, and thereafter Harvard will host it, or Georgia Tech will host it, and maybe this topic will ultimately come to a concrete conclusion, because right now this is the first time that we are having such a conference in India, and this is a topic which really interests us. I would like, therefore, our Minister for Education, and this Kerala is the most educated state in India. And therefore, the Minister of Education presides over a state where people are highly intelligent, and therefore in this place where the SCMS, built entirely by Dr. GPC Nair with his own resources, his ability to get finances organized properly, to rely on the students' donations and fees and use them without any corruption and without making his own personal empire. He has built this magnificent institution, which is now ranked amongst the top 25 business schools in the country, out of 1,200 business schools in the country. And you will see the premises tomorrow. You will see the infrastructure is world class. And therefore, in this context, Kerala is fast becoming, if not God's own country, it's certainly becoming, I mean, I'll contest that, whether it's God's own country, though mythology does say that a great 6 and the axe fell where Kerala is, and therefore from that perspective it is. And I would therefore conclude what I have to say with a request to Mr. M.A. Baby, Minister for Education in the Government of Kerala, to give us some guidance on how we should proceed with the discussion. Thank you.
This is the first time strategic experts from the world superpower are having an academic dialogue with the academicians of the fast emerging economies of the East. For almost a century, US have been leading the world as an economic and military superpower. The war horses of Europe had long been
They are from the media.
Okay, I'm also with the media.
He is with the influential figure. And based chief of bureau. So he can
because you all know him. I also welcome all the distinguished academicians, thought leaders, and ladies and gentlemen. I think this is relegated to the background. China and India were at the bottom of the pyramid for almost 500 years. China because of internal strife and India because of foreign domination. But years of subjugation and strife could not kill the spirit of these countries, whose geniuses helped Europe rise to become great nations in later years. I would say the East and the West. Will India and China continue to grow economically and militarily at the current pace? Will they be an economic opportunity or threat to the US in the projected economic situation in terms of jobs, access to energy, and innovations? Will the US be able to strategically